Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Your host, Raven here, with part 3 of my Reading with Clarity series. Today we're in chapter 3 of the book of Job. Last chapter, he was smote with illness. Before that, he's lost his children and what seemed to be a natural disaster, which we all know who was responsible for that. He lost all his livestock and property. We don't know if he lost his house yet. It doesn't say that, but his livestock and servants, everything was killed, and that's his financial means. So, you can't pay taxes on your house or various things that day without any income. Everything, your physical livelihood has been destroyed. I mean, you get milk from cows and sheep, meat. Obviously, you have to feed those animals, so it's a lot of stuff is destroyed. He lost his children, which I don't have children. I haven't lost any, but ask anybody who's had a child and lost it how much that hurts them or how much that affected them. And then on top of that, he's lost his own health. He is no longer healthy himself. He's covered from the sole of his feet, which I mean his toe pads, I mean his heels to the crown of his head, which is, we know, the crown of your head where your hair starts to swirl out and cover your head. I mean, from the top to the bottom, he's covered with boils. They're sore, they're weak, which, they ooze, pus. They're probably not a joy to put pressure on. I mean, probably even sitting down or laying down makes him miserable. I mean, you're putting pressure on these boils on your back, boils on your legs. I mean, you turn on your side, you have boils on your arms, on your sides, sides of your legs. So he probably can barely ever find a comfortable position. He probably can only sleep for, this is speculation on my part, this isn't written, but he probably couldn't even sleep until he was so tired that he just passed out. So, I mean, when you're hurting and when you have illness like that, I mean, you're covered from head to toe with sore boils. It's not like you can just say, oh well, puff up the pillow and knock out. I mean, you're in pain, you're in discomfort. So, but a lot of hardship, and this Job didn't curse God, and but he did start to lament his situation, as any human being would. Nobody likes hardship. Nobody likes trouble. Nobody wants to lose their job, or maybe their wife or husband or significant other leave them. Nobody wants to lose their children. Nobody, obviously moral people, and nobody wants to. Maybe even your best friend maybe decide to stop being friends with you. I mean, nobody wants trouble, loss, hardship, heartache, and physical illness. I mean, I can't picture anybody who goes around, oh man, I wish I could come down with something and have me so sick I can't get out of bed today. You know, I mean, because you may want to skip school or skip work, but you don't want to be bedridden, like hospitalized sick. I mean, there's a difference between I can't come into work sick, or I don't want to go to school sick, and hospitalized sick, where you're at death's door, wishing the doctor or nurse would come in with more pain medication to ease your suffering. So anyway, let's get into the Word of God, and we're in the book of Job, chapter 3, and we're going to start with verse 1. After this, opened Job his mouth and cursed his day. And all this is from King James Version. Let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, there is a man child conceived. It's like, I wish that day never even came around. I wish I was never born. I wish the night they said, oh, your mom has, she's pregnant. I wish that never would have happened. Let that day be darkness. This is verse 4. Okay, yeah. And Job spake and said, that was verse 2. Let the day perish when I was born, and let the night in which it was said, there is a man child conceived. That's verse 3. Verse 4. Let that day be darkness. Let not God regard it from above, neither let the light shine upon it. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. This is verse 5. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. The evilness, the darkness of that day. As verse 6. As for that night, let darkness ease upon it. Let it not be joined unto the days of the year, Let it not come into the number of the months. Basically, don't even have that on the calendar. Don't put that. Don't even count that day should never exist, never be on the calendar. Just not in time, not in the timeline. Nowhere. It just doesn't exist. I wish it never existed. Verse 7. Lo, let that night be solitary. Let no joyful voice come therein. Verse 8. Let them curse it that curse today, who are ready to raise up their mourning. Which their mourning means a dragon, which is a constellation that signifies a Leviathan or the evil one. Also in this King James Version Bible, I have a companion Bible, which if you don't know what a companion Bible is, you should check out the Shepherd's Chapel online. Google the Shepherd's Chapel and check out Companion Bible. It lays out, ancient Hebrew words and texts. And also, and for the book of Job, it has in it a new metric translation of what's going on. What Job has to say and his friends, a new metrical version. That's what it says. And it starts with verse 3 and goes on to the end of the book, which also it's a new metrical version that gives you it's more of a song or a poem in that style, and it can give you clarity on things that like you don't understand, like those who let up their mourning. Now, to us as modern speakers, and what does that mean? But if you go to that same verse in the metric version, it says, "Let those engaged in banning days curse this, and those raised even to rouse Leviathan." So those are trouble starters. Like even let the trouble starters curse this day. They want to stir up trouble, stir up Satan, and curse days and kick stuff out. Like verse 9. Now I'm going back to the King James Version. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for a light, but have none. Neither let it see the dawning of the day. Like once again, I wish this thing never existed. I wish it never happened at all. 10. Because it shut not up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hid sorrow from mine eyes. Like that's why it's like that day, the day that I was conceived, the day I was born, that's because I was born, all this happened. Future and time comes on me, and then bam, I'm in this situation. If I had never been born, I wouldn't be as miserable as I am now. 11. Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? Like, why couldn't that shows the deepness of his lamentations. Like, why didn't I die? Why was I born dead? Why live my life up to this point? Grow up as a child to a man. Why marry, have children? Why work hard and establish myself, financially, through things he's gotten? Why have I done any of this when it's just going to come to the situation I'm in now, where my children are dead, my livestock and the people who work for me have been killed, the livestock have been taken, and the servants have been killed, and me, for himself, he's dealing with grief, and he's also physically ill, which we also know who is the cause of that, which is Satan. And if you're just for some reason skipping to you're just coming in on verse 3, I recommend you watch part 1 and part 2 of this series so you can know who's responsible for this. It's a great misconception that God caused all this. So I would like you to read part 1 and or if you're reading the Bible, read the Bible or view part 1 and part 2 of this series so you know who is responsible for Job's condition. Okay, verse 12. Why did the knees prevent me, or why the breast that I should suck? Like why? What he's saying is, why didn't the knees prevent me? If we go to 11, it's like prevent me. Like, why didn't they keep me from coming out? Why did he? Why? How come the breast gave me milk? Babies drink milk. Why did they support me, help me to grow when this was just gonna happen? Why Why? You know, I mean, he's in an awful situation. 13. For now should I have lain still and been at quiet. I should have slept. Then had I been at rest. He's like, man, if I hadn't been born, I wouldn't be on earth. I'd be at peace. I'd be rest. Like, spirit speaking spiritually now. He's like his soul, because on earth we're just flesh. We're spirits inside flesh bodies. If you're not, to be absent from this world is to be present with the Father. So either you're here or you're there. People like, where do the dead people go? Well, you're either on earth in a flesh body or you're in heaven in a spiritual body. And that's what he's talking about now. He said if he wouldn't been born on earth, he'd still be in heaven. He'd still be in spiritual form. And he'd have peace. He wouldn't have all this trouble and heartache and sadness. 14. With kings and councils of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves. Yet I be with them, and with all the people who were passed already, and they built things. Their things have come to ruin. They built ruins or monuments to themselves. They passed already, or the things they established are about to turn into ruins. So it's like I'd be up there with them. Dead kings, dead counselors, people who've already lived their life and got that over with. Or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver. That's verse 15. Or verse 16. Or as an hidden untimely birth I had not been, as infants which never saw the light. He's like, I wouldn't have existed. This wouldn't have happened to me. I wouldn't have existed. You can't have something happen to you if you don't exist. It's like you can't, give a hard time to an imaginary being. It doesn't exist. Verse 17. There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary be at rest. Basically when you're soul, there is no trouble. Like on earth, we get a lot of trouble from people who don't do right. There's somebody always starting trouble or doing something they're not supposed to be doing, causing this problem, causing that problem. It's like in heaven, in the spirit, in heaven, there's none of that stuff. There's nobody breaking into your house. There's nobody wanting to raid your livestock or kill the people who work for you. There's no your children getting killed. There's no storms or tornadoes, which he's still under the impression that it was a natural disaster. But having read the previous chapters, we understand that it wasn't just a coincidence or a natural disaster. It was from Satan himself directly. Okay, verse 18. There the prisoners rest together. They hear not the voice of the oppressor. It's like, on earth you can be thrown in jail or you can be a slavery. In some parts of the world there's slavery still going on. And that's just not a racial slavery. There's sexual slaves. Sexual slavery is a big problem in some countries. And think about that person's life, especially, mostly female. Think about that little girl. She's only 6 years old, 7 years old, and some pimp or sex trader or slave trader is presenting her to, a 45-year-old man or 55-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, think about her situation. That's not the greatest situation to be in the world. And he's saying, and if I hadn't been born, I'd have been where, they are. There's no oppression, in heaven. There's no slaves, whether they're for physical labor or sexual labors. There's no slavery. There's no taskmasters like breathing down your neck, do this, do that, or else. People are at peace. They're at rest. Alright, 19. The small and great are there, and the servant is free from his master. And that's true. Whether you were a king or whether you were a janitor or you wash clothes, or which this janitor not being a bad job, don't think I'm degrading anybody based on their job. As long as you're doing honest work, then that's a good job, and there's no shame in that. But whether you're rich or great or a political leader, or whether you're your average Joe, you're eventually going to die, and you're going to be equalized up there. There's no king over this person or this and that. Everybody's equal. there's no money, there's no rich person, and there's no poor person. You don't have to go to work for this other person, because they don't have any more than you do. And the servant is free from his master. I mean, why would you work, for somebody else? Like, there's no washing clothes or running errands, because you don't work for them anymore. There is no I'm your boss, you're the worker type situation. The only person we have to serve and make sure we please is Almighty God, and that's it. There's no punching the clock for somebody else who is making you work harder or paying you less or whatever circumstance that goes on earth. Verse 20. Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery, and life unto the bitter soul. And it's like, you going through all this, like, why even let somebody go through all that? Why give them life or the light of day? Why make them face another day? Why make them, go another day longer in the situation they're in? Verse 21, he's speaking of the people who are bitter in soul, which long for death, but it cometh not, and dig for it more than for hid treasures. Now, you have to be pretty bad to be looking for death. I mean, you have to be in a very bad situation, because, I mean, not every day does somebody wish that they died. And that applies to us modern times, too. I mean, people think, well, that's Job. That was so many thousand years ago. What's it got to do with me? There's a lot of people in America and other countries facing depression, whether it's financial, because of financial reasons, whether they lost someone, whether low self-esteem or various issues. I mean, they're depressed. I mean, and a lot of times people can become suicidal. I mean, they can they could wish they were dead. They feel so bad about their life circumstances, or they view their life circumstances so bad they wish they were dead. And these people need help. That's why it's important to reach out to people. You don't have to preach to every person you meet, but it's important to keep up with other people's well-being, family members, friends, people who are around you. Just asking how they're doing, even small talk about their life, things that are going on with them. You'd be surprised what people have going on but don't say anything to other people, whether they feel ashamed, they think other people look down on them, or maybe they just want to keep it private and to hope the situation will go away on its own. And just by you asking about their welfare or seeing about them or caring about them gives them hope. It's like, well, somebody else cares enough about me to ask about this, ask about that. And you may open the door, to a person opening up or sharing a problem and pull them away from committing suicide or help them take steps out of depression. So never underestimate what you can do, just by talking to people. And not everybody in the world is a preacher. So don't think, well, in order to do God's work, I have to preach. No, you don't. Just make sure that you care about other individuals. Just do things that God created us naturally to do. We naturally care about each other. We don't have to go to school to learn to care about somebody else. Let's continue. 22. Which rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they can find the grave. Which these people are in such bad situations. I mean, another thing you can think of is prisoners of war, captured soldiers. I mean, if you're captured by another country, they're not gonna treat you to parties and take you out to dinner. You can be tortured, whether it's like articulated torture where they're focusing on causing you pain and this and that, or whether it's just keeping you locked up in a cell for 23 hours a day and then only giving you a thimble of food to eat, a sip of water. You're starving half to death. I mean, if a person in that situation, they might wish that their captors would come and shoot them, because at least they'd get out quick and it'd be over. Alright, 23. Why is light given to a man whose way is hid, and whom God hath hedged in? And it's like, once again restating, like, why is like time and life given to somebody who he feels that God has straightened his steps. Now we know who's responsible, but him as a mortal doesn't know. And And also we tend to think that way, like something happens, God is doing it to us, and he's like, why do people go through that who aren't blessed? There's tragedy happened to them. That's what he's saying. And at this point he's saying that who people, he hasn't said that God has had himself in. He just wanted, I mean, people in general, like that maybe their life is, in trouble or misery, and God has maybe prevented, this or that, these blessings. But oftentimes it's not God, and more often than not, it's ourselves. We hedge ourselves in through getting away from God and our actions. And God has to punish people. He can't just let folks just do whatever they want to do. He has to lay folly. And, even the Bible says that He chastises the ones He loves. So just because this statement says that who God has hedged in doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. God may have hedged you in or closed off certain opportunities or cut off certain blessings for your own good. So always keep that in mind. And once again, it's just more lamentation. Like, why do people go through? Why is time given to people in misery? So they can be miserable or stay stuck in misery. 24. For my sighing cometh before I eat, and my roarings are poured out like the waters. And and once again I went to the new metric version, which that gives a clearer statement. In my personal opinion, he's saying that instead of food, I'm just sighing. And like water pouring out, I'm just pouring out grief. Just like like the faucet busting, the water just coming out everywhere. He's just like, that's all I have. It's like all he's getting is sighs instead of food. He's not filling his belly with good stuff. I mean, he's sick. He's laying. We don't know where he's residing physically. The Bible doesn't state, whether he's still in his house. So I'm assuming he had a house that wasn't destroyed. Maybe that was destroyed along with his children's homes and the other things that happened. Or maybe he doesn't have a house. Maybe that was destroyed too. And maybe he's lying, somewhere, on his his personal property or wherever. We don't know that. Verse 25. For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me. Verse 26. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came. Alright, and in the new metric version, he's saying that like my worst fears have happened to me. My children are gone, my health is gone, my land and property is gone. I basically have nothing. I'm just existing on the earth suffering. That's basically what I'm doing. And he's like, he didn't, and he's saying I didn't, feel secure, I didn't do this. He's just saying he never thought that nothing would ever, he didn't walk around with his nose in there thinking, oh, nothing can ever happen to me, nothing can, this is not going to go wrong or that's not going to go wrong. And he wasn't, and he said I wasn't negligent. He looked over what he was doing. He looked over the dealings with his property, livestock. He looked over his household and the people who worked for him. He looked over his children. I mean, if you read the Bible, he prayed for his children every day and did sacrifice to God for them, just in case they might have sinned and didn't acknowledge God. So he did it for them. He looked over his family, himself. He looked over his own health. It wasn't like he was out drinking all night, doing drugs and stuff. I mean, he trying to live the best life as possible. He was careful with his life. He paid attention to what he was doing, and he never had his nose in the air thinking that nothing bad could happen to him. But yet these troubles have happened to him, and that's what he's lamenting. And we know the cause of these troubles, and Job will find out the cause of these troubles too. As we go through the course of this book. And chapter 4, he's gonna be visited by some. He was already visited by his friends. Let me check out chapter 2. His friends visit him, and after he laments his situation, and we'll find out what the friends have to say to Job, and we'll do that on part 4 of the series, and we start chapter 4, verse 1. I appreciate y'all watching. I'm your host, The Raven. Check out, I do a vlog of, my personal opinions and some Bible verses. Things are my personal opinion are my personal opinion. So, always take it as that. Now, when I'm reading from the Bible, I also encourage you to read it for yourself and get an understanding for yourself, because me as a human, I'm not perfect. I've said this in a lot of my videos, and it's not my intent to willfully deceive anyone, but I can make a mistake. So in order to protect yourself and look out for yourself, you read it for yourself. You can't point this finger at me and say, oh, well, you told me this or you told me that. Okay, just because somebody says something, you automatically go and believe it, take it full on, or don't you go figure it out for yourself? So I encourage you to read the Bible for yourself and get understanding. These Reading with Clarity series is not for me to tell you exactly what to do. This is for me to read the Bible, give you my take, my opinions, the things I've learned and experienced, to help you grow, or maybe give you some insight, or give you a way to go, or you can decide for yourself. I'm just giving you a piece of me to help you make your decision to go through your journey with Christ and through the Bible. So anyway, I appreciate y'all watching, and stay tuned for chapter 4. And y'all have a good day.